Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I wanted to talk a little bit today about making stained glass. Some of you know that I started my long career with my broken china jewelry as a stained glass artist, and that is where I first learned to solder. And I know that a lot of you are soldering solely to make jewelry. So you may have never made stained glass or worked with glass, and I just want to talk about that a little bit because it is one of my first true loves in art and in crafts and traditional handcrafts, and something that has just been passed down for like hundreds of years. And one of my favorite things to look at when I visit the museum, and when I say the museum, I'm in Pennsylvania on the East Coast, so I usually go to Philly, to the Philadelphia Museum of Art, which is less than an hour from my house, which is pretty cool. And one of my favorite things to do when I get there is to go into the armor room where they have all the suits of armor, coats of armor, chainmail. They have some stained glass, and I am like so into the Middle Ages and all the Middle Age stuff. And I love looking at the swords and the, you know, the stained glass, and they have some other like pretty awesome stuff. If you've never been there and you are planning to visit Philadelphia or, you know, the East Coast, or if you live around here and you've never been there, you've got to go. I mean, it's just amazing. The first Sunday of every month, they have a pay what you wish. So it's kind of a donation. And I know if you have a big family, it can get a little costly when you visit museums and the like. So keep that in mind. But years and years and years ago, I wanted to make stained glass. I always thought it was so beautiful, and I wasn't sure where to start, and I was very lucky because I have a major stained glass retailer within a few miles from where I live, and I'm talking like major retailer. So I was really fortunate to be able to go in there and to get advice firsthand and say, you know, where do I start? Like, what do I need? And nowadays we have, aside from books, we have, you know, YouTube videos and so many, you know, great resources. But one of the very best things you can do is, you know, go in person and talk to an expert. So face to face, talk to an expert, find out exactly what you need. And I went to this place, and boy, they set me up. I left there with the basics of what I needed, not really too much more. That happened down the road a little bit when I really got into it. It's just like with jewelry making and beading, you can, you know, go into a bead store, like I say, and just like, oh, everything is so beautiful, and I need it and I love it. And it can be the same way with glass for sure, especially some of the hand-rolled glasses, and wow. But so the things I started making were, you know, very small, like, you know, sun catchers is pretty much where everyone starts. And then after a little while went by and I like honed in my skills, I started making these boxes, and they were pretty cool. They are just all glass with mirrors, and it's another thing that stained glass artists make that you start to make once you go past the, you know, the 2-dimensional, you get into more the 3D things. And yeah, so I would make these in all different colors, and it just reminds me of like a babbling brook and pebbles, and which is another of my passions, my rock and crystal collecting and my geology stuff that I love, but not getting too much off track. So the basic things that you need for stained glass is just like when you're making our jewelry or solder jewelry, you need solder, you need flux, you need a flux brush, you need a soldering iron, and of course you need glass and a glass cutter. And I mean a manual by hand glass cutter. You don't need any kind of electric saw or anything like that. And once it warms up and I get back into my workshop, I'll take you down there and I'll show you some stuff. Yeah, so a good quality cutter. I do another video that I will link above and below in the description if you haven't seen it. It is how to cut a plate with a manual glass cutter. So that's a great video, and in there I show you the tool that I use for stained glass, and it's some of the same tools. But we of course use only lead-free solder when we're making jewelry or any kind of container, anything you're going to eat with. Even a box like the stained glass box, you want to use lead-free solder. But for other things like windows, panels, things that aren't going to be held or touched, you can use your lead solder. So yeah, the glass is beautiful. You find out these little things when you start making stained glass. One thing I always thought was cool is why red glass is so expensive. I heard they used to throw actual like gold coins in to form the red, like in the Middle Ages, and ooh, I like that stuff. Anyway, so yeah, I think stained glass is great. I might even do a video how to do something really easy in stained glass, because if you can solder jewelry, or even if you're just a beginner and you have the tools, why not try stained glass? I mean, it's not much. You only need a piece of glass and a glass cutter. I mean, it's just, you know, a grinder. You need to have a grinder. So I'll talk about those things down the road. I'll do a video, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about stained glass, and it's just such a timeless, beautiful thing. Let's see, what else? One of the differences between jewelry making with soft soldering or low temp soldering, and those terms are used interchangeably. So we're talking about softer, low temperature melting metal, such as, you know, the lead-free or lead solder compared to like sterling silver. That's going to take a flame and a torch. And the great thing about making stained glass and making our soldered jewelry is we don't need a torch. You don't need any kind of flame. You don't need any dangerous canisters of gases that in your home. You know, you don't even need a butane torch. Although, you know, there are some jewelry things that we can do where I'll show you where you can use a little butane torch, and it's really nothing, but all you need is an electric soldering iron, and that's what makes it so great. So if you can make soldered jewelry, you can make stained glass, and we'll do a cool project down the road. The wheels are kind of turning, and I'll figure something out. But you know, you would need to get a couple more tools. You would need, like I said, a glass cutter. You can get them at virtually any of the large like chain craft stores now have sections where you have glass tools and metalworking tools, and or you can always get one online, or I'll put links below if anybody, you know, wants to know what to get or where to get. You can just leave me a comment and ask me. So yeah, stained glass is pretty awesome, and I know I have a container or two of it in the basement that's been down there for a few years. When I started making stained glass and I really got into it, I was in a competition with Warner Crivellaro Stained Glass. They had this giant competition. They had it for a few years, and it was called Battlefield Glass. And they had, you know, these levels of competition. So like in level 1, they gave you maybe, you know, this item and this item, and you had to put it in a stained glass project. And it was really cool. I mean, the things that people make are just there. I think there were 20 contestants, or maybe, I don't think there were more than 20, maybe 25, or maybe more like 20 contestants. And then every week someone got eliminated, or every 2 weeks. I forget how long we had to make the items. I made it through a couple rounds, and then I was out. But I should dig up those things and show you what I made, because those are pretty cool too. But yeah, so that's when I really got into, you know, experimenting and then using china in my stained glass, and eventually making jewelry, because I thought, you know, this motif on this piece of china is just so beautiful that it's got to be preserved. And, you know, why not put it into a piece of jewelry? And that's how I got started with my jewelry making journey. It was a very long process, a long journey. And, you know, like if you've ever seen that little meme of the road to success never looks like a straight arrow going up, it looks like this, you know, a jangled line that turns and twists all different ways. And, you know, that's what it takes. It takes a lot of learning different techniques and trying things out, and, you know, getting proficient in what you want to learn. And so eventually, if you're creative and you have enough patience and stick-to-itiveness and time, you can branch out into other things. And that's where, you know, these new creations come in, when people invent, like, you know, new techniques and new styles, and it's because like they've mastered what they know. So instead of then like imitating someone else and what they're doing, they'll start to go their own direction. And that's where the real magic starts to happen, because anyone can learn a technique and, you know, and master one thing. But then when you start to like put your brain into it and the wheels start to turn and you think, oh, well, what if I added, you know, like glass to this or resin to this or beads to this or what have you. And I love watching what transpires every year with what's popular and crafts. And, you know, you can see a lot of that online, especially with Etsy, which is like the major place. I do have an Etsy shop. I've been on there since about 2008 or 2009. I don't remember. But before Etsy was even around, all we did back in the day is we did craft shows, and they were great and they were a lot of fun. Shows are amazing. Anyone starting out in crafts or in, you know, no matter what type of, you know, thing you're making or what type of craft you're doing, you know, you definitely should do shows. And I think it's sad that they are not as popular as they used to be. Well, now we have the internet and you can just buy things online. And you know, that's one of my things about Etsy. You know, it's just kind of like a lot has gone down in quality because it's just a lot of buy sell. And if you don't know what that is, that's people buying things online, usually overseas, and then just reselling them as handcrafted, which is not cool. And anyway, I used to do the shows all over, and then from there I went to eBay when, you know, the whole, I'm old, you know, I'm in my 50s, so like years ago, and before we had like Etsy and all that, and the internet was just like, you know, this whoa new thing, you know, we had eBay, and like I sold my jewelry on eBay for years. I was a power seller, and it was just interesting now to think I was selling my jewelry on eBay, which is cool, you know, but it's really, you know, I met people from all around the world. I've sent jewelry to just like everywhere. I've sent jewelry everywhere. And, you know, I'm really grateful for all my customers. And, you know, I've had some customers that I've had since like my eBay days, which is like, you know, 20 years ago. And it's just kind of crazy. And I remember when my second daughter was newborn, and she is going to be 18. She's 17 now. So I remember like, it was like Black Friday weekend and on eBay, and I had her newborn in my arm while I was sitting at my computer, like, you know, typing up the sale, which is kind of crazy to think now that all those years have gone by. So yes, we had our craft shows, and then we had eBay, and you could have your own, you know, website, whatever. And now there is Etsy, and they just raised their fees. It was like 3.5%, I think, when I joined all those years ago, and now I think it just went up to like 6 or 6.5%. I forget. Plus, you know, people don't realize, who are shoppers, they don't realize like how expensive it is to sell on Etsy, because they take fees for this and that. They even take a percentage of like what the customer pays for shipping. It's just like kind of insane. You know, I don't know what's going to happen with that. I am tending to put more of my things on my website, laurabethlove.com. So if you're looking for my broken china jewelry, or, you know, some of my other artwork or crafts, you can find them there. But I will maintain my shop. You know, I just don't spend too much time on it anymore. And if you are an Etsy seller, I'm sure you know just what I'm talking about, and that you probably agree with me because it's kind of gotten out of hand, and it's a shame. It's a shame. And I really miss the days of, I mean, I grew up in the 70s, right, in the 80s, and I miss the days of having like juried craft shows, like with the Pennsylvania Guild of Craftsmen, or, you know, really good juried. When I say juried, means like you have to like apply and submit photos, and photos of your booth and your items, and not just like anybody can sign up. Those days, let's bring them back. Let's have a renaissance of, you know, traditional craft, quality craft shows with handcrafted traditional crafts. And I really encourage people to pick up on a hobby that is, it doesn't have to be jewelry making or soldering. I mean, you can do, there's so many things, like, you know, leatherworking is another one that was really big back then, and it's coming back now. So yeah, I encourage you to, you know, and I mean, there are still craft shows, you know, you can, you know, there are, you know, from the very small church bazaar kind of places to carnivals to juried shows that are only for crafts. That's what you want to look for. You don't want to do things where they serve food or outside. You know, if it's like a carnival, I mean, I've done that. I did like a carnival, and it was a big one. It was like really nice, and they had a huge tent for us, and but every time somebody walked by, it was like a dust storm, and I had stained glass panels hung like all behind me from my huge tent. And you know, it was just, you know, those days. Like I said, the small church bazaars, those are great for if you make like inexpensive things that are just like a few dollars, up to, you know, maybe under $20, $15. But if you need to match yourself up to the kind of show that fits. And the best way to find that out is to visit as many shows as you can. And that is leading me into another video, which is going to be all about getting started in craft shows. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. I will be back again very soon next week with a new video for you. So have a great week and have a great weekend, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys.